Dear friends, today there was a meeting in Melbourne. There was a meeting in Melbourne around the so called Khalistan referendum. There were a couple of people who met there, Khalistani supporters in Melbourne. And this comes in the wake of the temple attacks, two temple attacks that have taken place just within the week on Hindu temples, on well known Hindu temples in Melbourne. To get an update on this, we are going straight to our editors in Melbourne, Jai Bharadwaj and Dr. Amit Sarwal. Jay, what's the update? You were there, so give us an update.
See, Pallavi, today these Khalistani propagandists, they gathered in Melbourne. There were 20, 30 odd people handpicked by Gurpant Singh Pannu. I can tell you, he literally handpicked them. The company which was managing the whole show was told that each and every person will be cleared by me. I can tell you on record, I have access to those emails which Gurpat has written to the PR managing company. He picked and he told them that I'll be the one who will be deciding. He will be the one who will be deciding about the reporters. Unfortunately, the spreadsheet which they made was empty except for their UK XYZ journalists, which they have created their own portals in UK, USA, and Canada. Except for them, there was nobody to ask them questions. So, and we wanted to ask them questions, and this coward ran away from our questions. He has nothing to add. He was just trying to boost that we are creating XYZ thing. And what they did is, I can reveal it on Australia Today, that they have tricked Australian indigenous leader into their propaganda. We'll deal with that later on. We will update them that what they have. They're getting into what kind of propaganda, how this person issues number of videos which are kind of violent. He asks for doing violent acts. He claims that XYZ violent act which has happened in India was done by his Sikh for Justice group. So these indigenous people are very simple. They always support the right of people to have their own voice to be heard. That is the only part which these indigenous people have supported, that everyone's voice should be heard by the government and the authority. That is where they stand. Now, there was a couple of white men who want to give their intelligence and expertise to these Khalistan propagandists. What they are saying is, look, we do not support what Sikh for Justice or Khalistani propaganda or Gurpant Singh Pannu stands for. We are only here to monitor that this so-called referendum is done on in a proper way. You know what is proper way? I can request you to recall what has happened in UK. Their computers were confiscated by UK police, and it was revealed that whole charade of their Khalistan referendum there was a cooked exercise. Everything which the data which they produced was cooked by them. So these Gora fellas are trying to make it for the rest of the world that is a legitimate, they are doing with world standard or something. But we all know that they are just creating a charade of some numbers that XYZ number has come. We will see from today's thing, they requested a number of people. I can reveal they requested a number of Victorian parliamentarians, both from Labour Party and Liberal Party, they requested, they sent emails to federal MPs to attend this seminar. However, everyone just shunned them and told that we are not interested in your bloody propagandas. That is the truth for today. Now comes Khalistan propagandist, the supreme propaganda chief, that is Gurpatwant Singh Pannu. When we ask him, okay, you are claiming to be for a cause, come on, sit down with us, let's have an interview. He ran away, and I can tell you, he literally ran away from our questions, and he said, no, I cannot face your questions. That's what this Gurpatwant Singh Pannu's reality is. He cannot face the real questions. He cannot face the that he wants to be. I have talked to a number of people who are very close to this propaganda which is happening, and they told me that this Pannu is aspiring to be what Osama bin Laden was for caliphate. So for Khalistan, he want to be that figure, a funder, and he want to be brain behind what happens in this Khalistan movement or propaganda. So he and that person who is who has worked a bit on Khalistan movement told me that Pannu's will end up somewhere in jail the way he is going. So that's the truth of Gurpatwant Singh Pannu. At the moment, what he is trying to do, he's failing miserably. There was 30 odd people in a seminar where they wanted at least 200 people. Nobody appeared there. This is a failure of epic degree from what started at their car rally. They were claiming 2,000 people will come. Less than 200 people arrived there. And today's seminar, they were claiming at least 200 people will, elite of Melbourne and Victoria will attend the Khalistan propaganda seminar. So 30 people turned up. And I can tell you through the pictures and everything which we have received, 15 to 20 people are the one who have come from UK, US and Canada. So the local participation, if you want to determine, was 10 to 15 people. That's the reality of this Khalistan propaganda here in Australia right now. Pallavi?
Amit, I would like to get you in here at this stage. From the pictures that we have, it is very clear that they are ISI based propaganda, because if you look at the map that they claim should be Khalistan, there is no Nankana Sahib, there is no Kartarpur, two such important sites, Nankana Sahib being the birthplace of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. There is no Lahore, which was the capital of Sher Punjab, of Raja Ranjit Singh. So it is very clear that this is a completely fake movement propagated by ISI, and we will come to that later. The ethnic cleansing of Sikhs that has happened in Pakistan, and ISI's duplicity in harboring Osama bin Laden and getting Australian soldiers killed as well. So we'll come to that later. But Amit, your initial reaction on what's happened in Melbourne today?
So one of the initial things I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, when the whole propaganda started, is that the Khalistan movement does not have a ground to stand on, right? It's a very flimsy movement to begin with, and not just now. When it started as well, they had no idea what they want. They had no idea why they want. There is no logic behind this movement. As I said, that I'm open to all democratic movements. If you look at after Indian independence, we have so many states and union territories cut out based on language, not religion. Within India, it's not religion based, but based on administrative and bureaucratic ease. So you have Chhattisgarh, Telangana, right? We still have some portions in Northeast who are demanding a certain land belonging to particular ethnic community or a minority, but it's all based on some kind of logic which has to deal with administrative ease of doing business. So right now you have a Punjab here, which is very smaller than the Punjab that is in Pakistan, and therefore there is no logic on what basis they are asking for these places and what will happen to people who live within these places, right? So there is no logic, and therefore I think this is one of the reasons that uh, people are not ready to accept this propaganda within the Sikh community as well. So what happens is every time Khalistan propagandists make a comment, do something, for example, the vandalism that has taken place in the two iconic temples in Melbourne, you will see a large number of Sikh gurdwaras and associations have said that this kind of vandalism is not welcome in a multicultural and democratic society like Australia. So somewhere, and it's not like that Khalistani supporters were not there in Australia. They have been here, right? But it's only when, as Jitat points out, that people from UK, USA, and Canada come here, the desperation increases to gain followers, and they want to do remember the the street credibility thing that I mentioned. They want to show them this is the way we do things in Canada, right? But they don't know that this is not how things are done in Australia. So and that's what authorities need to understand, that there is a difference between graffiti and vandalism of a religious place using such graffiti, and that Australians will understand. So there are two things happening here. There is clear case of desperation where they're trying to influence youth by showing their street credibility, the street creds. Vandalism is happening, their propaganda is failing, and they are showcasing. So I said it's a movement mostly based on, Panun's favorite medium of communication, which is social media. So he's not going to communicate with anyone through normal media like ideological leaders do, right? So if you have so for example, even there is a Ukraine Russia war going on, you have both the leaders coming out and addressing the media. So they're using other channels, but this person or their whole kind of game is just to use social media. So if you look at TikTok, it's just full of their propaganda videos which have no basis, and they have been trying to create this narrative using social media that it's a very successful rally, right? Even if you look at the photographs, they crowd together, they book small rooms. So in small rooms, even 30 people will look, it's a large it's so these seminars. And if you look at the map that Jitat had just projected, the map is clearly just India. And in the last, I think, 5 years, there has been a constant attack on India and almost all sides, religious, political, economic, socio-cultural, academic, right? But you will see that people are fighting back. They're not ready to buy this kind of narrative that SFJ or whichever group is doing it, because at the end of the day, Khalistan movement has not been a peaceful movement for either side. People who have been asking for Khalistan and people who have been rejecting the idea of Khalistan. So they do not. And the most recent news, and as you have pointed out, and we have pointed out, that the idea of Khalistan is the idea of ISI. The mastermind behind it is ISI, and there is no doubt about it. They have been the initial funders, the trainers. There are raw agents who have, on record said that certain separatist movements, not just Khalistan, but other separatist movements in India as well, and Naxalite movements have been funded by ISI and at certain times China through proxies. So it is clearly a disintegration movement, a separatism, but the idea is very laughable if you look at Pakistan's economic condition right now. Right, the kind of activities that Pakistan has been funding in Afghanistan, India, even Sri Lanka and other parts of the world, even USA, it has not benefited at all. So any idea, any nation which is going to be based on this sole idea of my religion as supreme is not going to work unless the religion is secular to begin with, is open to all to begin with. So these are some of the things that we need to understand why this propaganda is failing to capture the young minds at this stage.
Yeah. Jitarth, I would like to come back to you because we are talking about a larger issue here. But coming back to Australia, my concern is really that the security agencies in Australia are missing the seriousness of this issue. That's why I keep bringing back, ISI's duplicity or role in the larger war. I mean, this is an intelligence agency of a country that was taking money from the West, supposedly to fight against Taliban, and then was funding Taliban to kill the soldiers of the Western nations, which includes over 40 Australian soldiers. 40 Australian soldiers have been killed. And General Durrani, who was a former chief of ISI, in an interview says, we fooled them, right? So the thing is, and Osama bin Laden was not hiding in some cave. He was in an army cantonment area. So, and these Khalistani supporters today, as you can see in the map, I mean, it would be laughable and baffling if it wouldn't be so serious an issue. That if there was any doubt before this, it's clear now that this is an ISI propaganda. How can you not have Nankana Sahib, Kartarpur, and Lahore in a map which supposedly is propagated by people who want a separate Khalistan for the Sikhs? And my follow up question also is that this is actually not causing anxiety in Hindus as well as Sikhs, because these people are tarnishing the reputation of everyone, of the Indian community, and of Hindus and Sikhs and stuff like that. And let me just very briefly tell our viewers here that there's been ethnic cleansing of Sikhs in Pakistan. Before partition, there were estimated to be over 2 million Sikhs there. Now they are less than or around 10 to 50,000. That's 0.01% of the population. While in India, the population of Sikhs is over 20 million. So there are as many Sikhs in India as almost the entire population of Australia. The two of the last 10 army chiefs in India have been Sikhs. So, this propaganda is very crazy. It's clearly ISI propaganda. But my concern is that and Hindus and Sikhs are worried about this. I mean, this is a country where Sikhs have been ethnically cleansed, which has a rich Sikh history. Now my concern is are the Australian authorities taking this threat seriously enough or not? Because beyond the point, we live in Australia and this concerns Australia's security.
Well, uh, every point which you have said, Pallavi, is true, and we have to address them one by one. Let me try if I can. Yes, it's a big concern to Australia's security. It's a big concern to regional security also. Australia is a Five Eye country. So Australian intelligence doesn't work in isolation. It gets input from America, Canada, New Zealand, UK, of course, Australia. So it's a Five Eye country. They just can't hide behind a fact that we don't know. They can simply write an email to their counterparts there in UK, Canada, and US, and they will give dossiers and dossiers and dossiers about all this Khalistan issue and what is ailing it, how up to where they can go, how murders are happening there in Canada of Sikhs who are opposing this Khalistan propaganda, or those who are coming out of those who were supposedly sometime back were supporters of Khalistan propaganda, and now they said, no, we don't want this stupid thing anymore. So they are being harassed and some have been killed. It's not that difficult to find that information for security agencies. It's baffling to me, baffling that Australian authorities are not taking it as seriously as they should have been taking. Let's come to now one step below to federal security apparatus to Victorian security apparatus. It took 2 days, 2 full days, and 3 stories from us, and a lot of media debate across in India and here in Australia by Australia Today, for Victorian government's multicultural minister to come out and say few lines. And that too, he has just said this is unfortunate incident. He hasn't come out in support of Australian Hindu communities whose temples are being vandalized. This is really, I will ask this question right now here. Has the minister given a call to these temples? Has he gone there? Is it too far away, the Babs Swaminarayan temple and Shiva Vishnu temple, for him to visit? No, it should not be. At least 10 people should have visited. Now let me come to Victoria Police. And I say it with full responsibility. From yesterday afternoon, I have been asking them for a statement on Shiva Vishnu temple vandalism. And this afternoon at 4:10, till this afternoon 4:10, what they have provided, that they are not able to locate that whether this complaint has been filed with police or not. That initially they asked me, which temple are you talking about? Can you give us name, address, and everything? I gave them name, address of Shiva Vishnu temple in Caramdown, everything, and told them that on Monday morning a report has been filed to Victoria Police. Can you kindly provide a statement what is happening till now? What they came up to me is repeatedly asking me, a reporter, can you tell us who was the officer who is investigating this incident? And my answer is, how do I know who is the officer? I mean, I'm not the party who is reporting the complaint to police. I'm a reporter. Incident has happened. I have told you where the incident has happened. Now it's up to you. You have to go and check with the jurisdiction where the Caramdown temple is. Find out who was the officer. It's your responsibility. And they told me, oh, it's our general practice to ask the who is the investigating officer so that we can allocate. What kind of Victoria Police is that for 2 days they could not find out who is the officer who is investigating Shiva Vishnu temple's vandalism? This is just utter disgusting level of professionalism from Victoria Police. And I think I'm really disappointed and dismayed by Victorian government right now, the way they are treating the Hindu community. Pallavi, this is one part. Second part, yes, Sikh community is the one who is facing the brunt of this Khalistan propaganda. A number of people here in Melbourne have told me, we are really sorry about the temple attacks. I told them that it's not you who have done it, it's Khalistan propagandists who are doing it. But they are also feeling guilty for something which they have not done because of these goons. This is the situation right now. And one thing is very clear, that a community has to come in front and stand in front of them and tell, get lost to where you come from, that is UK, Canada, or US. Go there. You have no place here in Australia. That's what community need to say. And I can tell you, Pallavi, the community is on the edge. Right now, Hindu community is on edge because their temples have been vandalized, but Sikh community is on edge with these Khalistan propagandists. They are saying one. I went to see them, and she told me she was with her husband. Jai Bhai, see, we used to. She said that in Punjabi, that We used to cross that poster at the Gurudwara. Ki lang jayenge, so I don't want to see towards it. So, because I have to go to the Gurudwara, I have to pray. That's why I just ignore that banner poster, what is there about Khalistan propaganda. But now they are on our face. Everything comes on my Facebook tweet where my friends are sharing their temple has been vandalized. How do I look away now? There is no way to look away. This is the condition of Sikh community here in Melbourne, especially, that they are feeling the heat of whatever stupidity these Khalistan propagandists are doing.
Yep.
If I have missed something, Pallavi, you can ask again. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to extend that point, that there have been reports of intra-group violence within some gurudwaras, not just in Canada. I remember there was a report that something happened in, if I'm not mistaken, in Brisbane, and and when violence creeps in, when there are goons and criminals, normal people feel threatened. I mean, most people would want to ignore or not engage with these people unless it becomes absolutely unbearable. And I think probably that time has come when the community has to come forward, Hindus and Sikhs together, and explain to people that what this is, that this is a serious issue, and have to make that distinction that Khalistanis are not Sikhs, Hindus, Muslims, Christians, all Indians are Indians. And these people are troublemakers, they're criminals, they're goons who are acting on the behest of a foreign country, which is which is known as a sponsor of state terrorism. I mean, it is a known fact in geopolitical circles that Pakistan has used terrorism as an instrument of foreign policy. I mean, look at what is happening in Afghanistan. So it's not as if we are revealing something new here. I think it is very important for one, the communities, and community leaders to come forward and make this stand clear, and and for the security agencies to take cognizance of the seriousness of this issue. Now, Amit, I'll just bring you in before we conclude. What do you make of this situation? Now, clearly, their propaganda seems to be failing in Australia. They refuse to take questions from the Australia Today. But Jai, said that we can have an interview, but as Jai was mentioning, they ran away because obviously they have no grounds to stand on. What is your final thoughts on today's development?
Now, one of the things that we have clearly seen that no community media has touched the Khalistan, any matter related to Khalistan. Also, except for one mainstream media which has taken the Australia Today story, and the Indian media which has taken the Australia Today stories, none of the mainstream media or the public broadcaster hasn't done any good investigative story regarding this. So one of the things that they were betting on was that they will get a free reign or no press, basically, and therefore the propaganda will work because it's on social media, and no media will question us, no media will come after us in Australia because they don't know anything about us. So we will be successful in creating a fake narrative which will work throughout the world, and then we can report to bosses in USA, Canada, finances, basically, who's we are not that naive. We know that there are people who support Khalistan and who stay behind the scenes, maybe rich businessmen who donate the money. So we will report to the bosses that it's working. Finally, maybe you will be president, prime minister of Khalistan someday. Because there is no date set, right? We don't know what will happen after referendum. They will have to go to the UN and all those things. But they didn't calculate that there is media that can question, that can challenge the narrative, and that's open to their ideas as well. That's kind of quite, that they didn't usually media. Yeah, so that's not working. And the what will happen is that I've been giving this example of Canada specifically. The act of desperation, when your propaganda fails, your ideology fails, becomes vandalism, which we have started seeing. right? So as I said earlier, that it's not that there were not no Khalistan supporters in Australia. There were Khalistan supporters, but now the big boys have stepped in from USA, Canada, and UK to show them how things are done to promote the ideology. So vandalism is the next step. The follow-up steps usually include intimidating media persons or anyone who opposes the idea of Khalistan within the community. That has at some instance started. You gave an example of the Brisbane Gurdwara Committee, I think, where something happened. Um, New Zealand has seen similar things where a media person was attacked. So it's not clear if it was a Khalistan case or personal enmity, and that's where police get confused because they don't understand what's going on, right?
Sure.
And then the other step becomes violent attacks, open violent attacks, as we have seen in Canada. So sometimes they use gangsters to do their bidding. They will pay someone. They might attack themselves. One of the clear cases from Canada was where Hindu businesses or not Hindu Punjabi businesses who opposed the idea of Khalistan were boycotted. You can go through the last 2-3 years reports where there are certain businesses who stopped, who started opposing openly. We have seen the same thing happening in Adelaide, where a couple was harassed who later fought elections as well, I think. They were harassed by people who supported the idea of Khalistan, and they belonged to a particular NGO kind of group as well. They had lawyers, they had activists. They said, we will come in large numbers and not let any function that you're organizing. And there were 2 or 3 policemen posted outside. They had no idea, they had no clue what's going on. They thought everyone who's entering the premise is going to celebrate, and they took the mics and they started creating a ruckus. We reported that story as well. So one of the things is, if media is not going to report, people will think it's an acceptable thing to do in Australia as well. And so the people who do not support the idea of Khalistan will get the message that these people are so powerful that even media doesn't report about them, right? So that's the message. We should work together as a community, and that's what Jay said. When he said that people from within the community, Punjabi community especially, people from Punjab should step up and say this kind of behavior, this kind of ideology is not welcome. If you want to put your case to the general public, do it like we do it in a democratic society here. Otherwise, you guys are not welcome. So that's the logical step that I can see. Otherwise, the desperation will definitely lead to violence, and that's where the authorities won't be able to contain these people.
Yeah. And Jay, just lastly, I will follow on from what Amit said. He made a very important point that these people are mostly active on social media, and they perhaps felt that nobody's going to report on them, nothing's going to come under the radar of officials, and then they can just openly keep going on with their fake propaganda. And as I've mentioned before, we have been bullied and harassed by so many of these handles which are clearly anonymous. Probably many of them have their origins from Pakistan or probably some other countries, and I'll come back to that India and Australia are, the relationship has really taken off. They are strategic partners. There is an economic treaty. The Indian diaspora is among the most successful diaspora in Australia. Under all of this, there really seems to be an attempt to derail or at least damage that relationship to a certain extent. What would you want to say to officials in Australia and India? You work in that space. How to contain this situation, because otherwise it can really go out of hand. And I've said this again and again, that the India Australia partnership is a crucial partnership of the 21st century, not just for the Indo-Pacific but for the world. Given that they're both secular democracies, it's vitally important that countries like that get together to fight challenges like terrorism and climate change and many other international issues. Your last words, Jay.
Uh, Pallavi, Australia and India has to work really close on this. However, there are limitations where I don't see. It's a kind of internal security and law and order issue of Australia. What is happening right now? So India has no say in that. I have talked to a number of officers here in Australia and in India within External Affairs Department there, and everyone tells me the same thing. See, something happening on Australian soil is Australia's responsibility. We have no say, and we don't want to get into it. So they have a clear idea about where they stand. They also say if Australia wants any help, support, information, anything, we are happy to provide that. However, it has to come from Australian authorities that they want to know about Khalistan issue. They want to know about who is connected to whom. There are Babbar Khalsa and all those terror organizations which have done a number of things which we all know. You were just talking about they are linked to ISI, they are linked to Harkat-e-Mujahideen, they are linked to a number of terrorist or organizations there in Pakistan. So if Australian security apparatus want to do something and want some information, Indian counterparts, as I understand what they have heard from them, they are happy to provide that information. That's what they say. This is our role. The same way as Australia could take that information from Canada, US, UK, wherever they want to. uh, but when it comes to Australian soil, as an Australian citizen, my health, well-being is responsibility of this government. I pay taxes here. I'm Australian citizen. So who will look after me? The government. Who will ensure that my safety and my religious places are safe? The government. Who is government? Government are Victoria Police or federal apparatus of security. They are supposed to look after. And if they, I mean, if they don't have information, then they should access it. So at the end of the day, the buck stops with Australian authorities because it's happening here in Australia. How they will deal it, I see when it comes to the federal part, I see enthusiastically they are saying that we are working to manage it as best of uh, our abilities. These are the words I heard over the phone, which was told to me. We are working best of our ability to manage it. Now you have to draw your own conclusions. What do they mean by manage? However, on Victorian thing front is a simple law and order thing. They can do things which will ensure that temple attacks don't happen. But somehow Victorian government and Victoria Police is failing on their part. They have to come to table and really, really end their game. Otherwise, um, I don't know. They 1,000 people will be standing on the stairs of Victorian Parliament or in front of Victorian Police, Victoria Police headquarters. That's what they want. Then only they will work. Then I don't know how situation will go, which way it will go. Pallavi.
Yeah, and I think, Jay, that there has no arrests have been made so far on the vandalism that happened at the BAPS Swaminarayan temple. I don't think that there's been any arrests so far. Let's hope that the authorities take this matter seriously. Let's hope that we'll also get a statement from Premier Daniel Andrews. Let's hope that we get some sort of assurance, some sort of because as an Indian Australian, I'm feeling a bit let down. I am feeling a bit distressed by the situation because today it's in Melbourne, tomorrow it could be in Sydney. Is this really acceptable in 21st century Australia, where the Indian community is now the second largest diaspora after the British Australian community, and where the Indian Australian community is contributing so positively, to Australia, and It's just it's distressing, but let's hope that in the time to come, the authorities take this matter seriously. Thank you all for joining us. We will keep you posted. We will not deter away from speaking the truth. Thank you very much for joining us.